Hello everyone, my name is Randil. Welcome back to our channel, English with Sanjana. As we all might know, there are four main types of conditional sentences. Zero conditional, conditional sentences type 1, conditional sentences type 2 and conditional sentences type 3. This two-part video means all about conditionals. We will be looking at all four main types of conditional sentences in terms of their formulation and usage. In this video on if sentences part 1, we will only be looking at conditional 0 and conditional sentences type 1. On conditional 0, you can have a clear idea about its usage, concept and the formulation. Also, on conditional sentences type 1, usage, concept and the structure both in the if clause and the main clause. If you watch this two-part video all the way to the end, it will be helpful and useful to deepen your understanding on all four main types of conditional sentences. I have already included lots of examples for each case for you to practice. As usual, at the end of the lesson, there are some exercises to test whether you have already taken the essence of the lesson. Then join me in this lesson on conditionals. If you are ready, let's start with part 1.
If sentences part 1, zero conditional and conditional sentences type 1. What is a conditional sentence? A conditional sentence is a sentence that expresses one thing is contingent upon something else. An example.
If it rains, the cricket match will be cancelled.
If it rains is the dependent clause. The cricket match will be cancelled is the independent clause or main clause. The cricket match will be cancelled, which is the main clause, depends on if it rains, which is the dependent clause or if clause. The impact of the main clause of the sentence is conditional on the dependent clause. An example.
I will give you some money.
I'll give you some money. It means there is a possibility that she will give him some money without any condition. If you come is the condition that she applies. Giving him some money is dependent on if he comes, which is the condition imposed by her. The impact of the main clause of the sentence is conditional on the dependent clause. There are four main types of conditional sentences. Zero conditional, conditional sentences type 1, conditional sentences type 2 and conditional sentences type 3. As I mentioned in the introduction, we will only be looking at zero conditional and conditional sentences type 1. A conditional sentence consists of two clauses, the if clause and the main clause. An example.
If I feel well tomorrow, I'll go to work.
If I feel well tomorrow is the if clause. I'll go to work is the main clause. Punctuation rules for conditional sentences. These rules are applied for all four types of sentences. When the if clause comes before the main clause, they are separated by a comma. Explanation.
If I get that job, I'll move to Colombo.
I'll move to Colombo is the main clause. If I get that job is the if clause. Then I have placed a comma after the if clause. Look at the same example when I switch the if clause and the main clause around.
I'll move to Colombo if I get that job.
If I get that job is the if clause. I'll move to Colombo is the main clause. The main clause comes before the if clause. Therefore, no comma is used. Let's look at zero conditional first. We use zero conditional when we want to talk about facts or things that are generally true. Scientific facts are often covered by the zero conditional.
If you heat ice, it melts.
Formulation. As we discussed earlier, there are two clauses in a conditional sentence: if clause and main clause at zero conditional. We usually use present simple in the if clause and also present simple in the main clause. An example:
If you turn this switch, the lights go out.
since the if clause appears before the main clause, make sure you place a comma to separate the two clauses. And also the following formulation for zero conditional: when you switch the two clauses over. When the main clause comes before the if clause, there is no comma between them. Present simple in the main clause and present simple in the if clause. Example:
It turns into ice if you freeze water.
some examples for zero conditionals. If you heat water at 100 degrees Celsius, it boils. Second example: if it rains, the ground gets wet. If you pour oil on water, it floats. If you smoke, you get old early. If you mix yellow and blue, you get green. Note: we may use when instead of if in zero conditionals. An example:
If you stand in the rain, you get wet.
here, in the place of if in the if clause, you may use when because it is not a real conditional.
When you stand in the rain, you get wet.
That's all about zero conditional. Now let's take a look at conditional sentences type 1. Conditional sentences type 1 refers to a possible condition and its probable result. These sentences are used to make statements about the real world and about particular situations. Explanation: Kate has lost her wedding ring. She tells Anne,
I have lost my wedding ring. Have you seen it anywhere?
No, but if I find it, I'll tell you.
here if I find it is a possible condition. I'll tell you is its probable result. In this example, Anne feels there's a real possibility that she will find the ring. So she says, if I find. It's time to look at the formulation. Present simple in the if clause. In the main clause, future will or can, may, might, must, should plus bare infinitive or imperative. An example for future will: if we arrive at the cinema late, we will miss the beginning of the film. Examples for conditional sentences type 1. First example for might plus bare infinitive in the main clause.
If you don't hurry, you might miss your train.
Second example for an imperative phrase in the main clause. If you want to make an appointment with the doctor, give her a call. Third example for future will.
If we go by bus, it will be cheaper.
Fourth example for can plus bare infinitive as in the form of a question.
If you see Sam, can you ask him to phone me?
Last example is also for future will. If anyone phones me, tell them I'll be back at 11 am. Note: we may use should plus bare infinitive in the if clause if there is a very slight possibility of something happening. Explanation:
If you should change your mind, give me a call.
should plus bare infinitive in the if clause suggests that there is a very slight possibility that you will change your mind. One more example.
If you go there, pass my regards to them.
In this example, present simple in the if clause suggests there is a high possibility that you will go there. Second example.
If you should go there, pass my regards to them.
Should go in the if clause suggests there is a very slight possibility that you will go there. That's all for conditional sentences type 1. Now we will be looking at the difference between if and in case in terms of meaning. I'll take an umbrella in case it starts raining. It means I will have an umbrella with me whether it rains or not.
I'll take an umbrella if it starts raining.
That means I will take an umbrella with me only if it rains. We may use unless instead of if not in the if clause. An example.
He won't pass the exam if he doesn't study harder.
In the place of if plus not, you may use unless. He won't pass the exam unless he studies harder. We may use only if, providing that, as long as, instead of if in if clauses. You can go to the party if you promise to be back before midnight. You can go to the party only if you promise to be back before midnight, with some added emphasis. You can go to the party providing that, as long as you promise to be back before midnight. That is the end of the lesson on conditional 0 and conditional sentences type 1. Let's move on to some exercises. Choose A, B or C which fits best in the plan. Question number 1. If the lake blank, we will go ice skating. Now pause the video and write the answer. If the lake freezes, we will go ice skating. Question number 2. If you break it, you blank pay for it. If you break it, you will have to pay for it. Number 3. Unless you apologize, Anthony blank to you again. Unless you apologize, Anthony will never speak to you again. Number 4. Unless you blank your sister with you, you can't go to the party. Unless you take your sister with you, you can't go to the party. Number 5. You can go camping as long as you blank the fence before you leave. You can go camping as long as you paint the fence before you leave. Number 6. Tom blank to the cinema provided that he decides which film we see. Tom will come to the cinema provided that he decides which film we see. Number 7. You blank the test unless you study harder. You won't pass the test unless you study harder. Number 8. If he blank, he will miss the bus and be late for school. If he doesn't hurry, he will miss the bus and be late for school. Number 9. If you eat all that chocolate, you blank sick. If you eat all that chocolate, you will get sick. Number 10. We blank swimming tomorrow, only if the weather is good. We will go swimming tomorrow only if the weather is good. That's all for today's lesson. In my next video on if sentences part 2, we will be looking at conditional sentences type 2 and type 3. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you find it useful, subscribe to our channel. If you have comments, drop them in the comment section below. I'll talk to you there. I'll see you in my next video.